Broads Media.
Hello, friends, family, loved ones, acquaintances, haters. How are you today? If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the family here. You could also smash the thumbs up as well. Maybe leave a comment. That would go very well. And then lastly here, I want you to go on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and get yourself linked up with Sports Talk with Bro so you can take me to your ride to work. You can take me on your ride home from work. You can listen to me at work. And you could also join the Broads Media membership here on YouTube for $4.99 a month, and you will get access to Coffee with Broads live streams every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. on top of access to our Discord channel. So can't thank you guys all enough, and enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Yo, let's talk a little birds, huh? We got Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore addressing the Philly media for the first time. And there were a few things that were interesting. Some positives, some negatives. Let's start with Kellen Moore, and we'll start with the positives because I'm a very positive man. I'm just excited, number one here, because I've seen some pretty damn respected numbers out of Dallas's offense when he was at the head of it and when he was the face of that offense. There were some pretty strong, solid numbers when you associate what their offense was doing compared to all of the other offenses in the league. And when you think of A.J. Brown, this offensive line, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley, that's a lot. Like, that is a ton of firepower, and you can make the argument whether they figure it out or not, whether they have the right pieces in place to actually put it all together and make the offense hum. I don't know, but I do know that we're in a better position this year compared to last year, because last year, Nick Sirianni completely lost control, and I know exactly where this is going to go, so I'm giving you a fair warning shot. I am probably going to destroy the head coach at one particular time, because everything that is a negative on this list ties back to, well, what does that say about Nick? Whether that's fair or not. And I'm even going to play audio from Kenny Gainwell on a podcast talking about the culture, and even that ends up going back to the head coach with me asking, well, what does that mean for Nick Sirianni? So I hate the fact that we are starting a season with that being the dialogue, with so many improvements to the defense, with some youth in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Carter with the full season under his belt. Bryce Huff, as much as I believe they're going to lose a huge workhorse in Hassan Reddick and a big-time sack guy as well, I think Bryce Huff can still make plays, and there is some intrigue in what he can do. I don't know if he plays more snaps, if that automatically means he's going to get the production we're looking for, because some guys wear down. Josh Sweat. I'm looking at you, Josh Sweat. I need you to hit a different level. If you're going to take that jump, and remember, when he was first getting started, we all asked if it was more about just getting in the mix as a rotational piece, and he looks at himself as a starter. Like, I'm ready to log in some minutes. Well, you can't use the excuse that you're tired then, because all we heard was they're tired, they're out of gas, they're not in shape, they're beaten down, they're broken. That's unacceptable if you're going to be an elite pass rush. Unacceptable. That doesn't happen. You don't hit a wall. You last. Just saying, Josh Sweat. But there's some intrigue around here. And I want to start the season off with a lot of positivity, but this whole Nick Sirianni thing is a black cloud that really does sit right on top of my house and maybe the NovaCare complex as well. I don't know. But look, is that funny? I start off with the positives, and in my first positive, discussing the overall excitement, I end up going the other way with it. But I'm excited overall just for Kellen Moore. I think there's a reason why there are plenty of organizations that look at him as a very interesting offensive coordinator, experienced but young at the same time, has a lot of creativity in what he wants to do. He'll utilize pre-snap movement, getting to number 2. Ding, ding, ding. One guy, Nick Sirianni, says he's not going to motion just a motion, and then I get to hear Kellen Moore, a guy who understands the actual logic of football, and he stresses the importance of figuring out what the defense is running based off of actually utilizing pre-snap action. We'll get to play action. We'll talk about getting under center and utilizing like normal strategy so we can get some bootleg play action, get him going out of the pocket, have teams bite on the potential handoff to Saquon Barkley under center. I'm just saying. I don't know why it's so damn difficult. But pre-snap movement can cause confusion in the secondary. Trust me, I watched the secondary all year long. Confused as hell when other teams are going in motion. Why can't we ever do that? I watch our defense get crushed by it. So the fact that Kellen Moore is going to utilize that to his advantage, bravo! The bar set super low, but bravo. And here's another very important piece to the puzzle of success offensively. And I don't put as much blame on Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni on this one, because if I was just telling you how I feel, I don't think Jalen Hurts was healthy last season. And we'll never know. And yes, a lot of guys play banged up. And if you're out there on the field, there's zero excuses. You need to do your thing so this team could go win, because if you're not going to play well, then what you're battling through is clearly limiting you enough where maybe a healthy backup is better, right? Just in theory, when you're discussing an injury, if you're not playing at a level that satisfies, meaning if you can't run the ball and be a special weapon with your legs, that really takes away from the 3 dimensions of this offense. And the reason why this team was so damn lethal in 22 was because of the threat of him running the ball. And I don't think he was capable of doing it. Therefore, the offense that was already super simple and very vanilla got even more vanilla because you took an element out of it. But I don't blame Brian Johnson or Sirianni for that. I truly think it's just they had to find a way to work around that part of the playbook because Jalen isn't 100%. And, you know, I know the difference of what this offense can be. And when he has that jump, when he has that juice behind his running, tough runner, big guy, hard to bring down, holds onto the football super tight, leans over, takes 5 defenders to bring him down. He moves the chains. It all starts at the line of scrimmage, though, when there's an option on it and he gets to read and react. But when you take that part away from the offense, you can see how much that changes things, especially defensively. The other team, what they can throw your way, what they can commit to. Oh, he's not a threat? Well, what are we worried about then? So I expected, especially early, when he's at least as healthy as he'll probably be, because once you get 4 or 5 games in, there's always something that's going to linger. But here's my negative on the Kellen Moore front. The positives, utilizing Hurts with his legs, pre-snap movement, and just my overall excitement because whether we hated him in Dallas or called him overrated or whatever, just he's a hate to face because he was that young uprising star and he was wearing the damn star. So, yes, you know, there's that negative recognition because he reminds us of the team we despise the most. But he did put up some respected numbers when you compare them to a lot of the other offenses throughout the league. So with this type of skill, I think that there's a lot to be excited about, right? All right, so here's the negative, though, about what he said. He was talking about blending the good from last year with what he feels is his offense and then also try to marry it. So what you're doing is finding the right terms, and he was pretty big on the word just in regards to like communication and verbal and making sure that you're on with the terms. Like you guys all have to be on the same page when we are talking out there on the field. So let me get this straight. You're taking some of Nick's offense, you're taking some of your own offense, and then you're making terms based off of those two that you're not really comfortable with. It's new to you as well, and you're trying to teach that also. Doesn't that feel very clunky? Like, isn't the job now to remove Nick Sirianni from the offense? There was nothing that was good last year. What was good? Don't tell me screens. Don't tell me wide receiver screens. Don't tell me asking Devontae Smith to be a lead blocker when you're utilizing a tight end screen. No, no, no. There's nothing good. So that might just be a bullshit lie to try and make Nick Sirianni look differently with public perception. Like, oh yeah, there's some things that I really would love to pluck away from Nick's brain. But in the back of Kellen Moore's mind, he's going, I'd never touch any of that in my life. That's probably what he's thinking, but he's giving the people what they want, which is, let's show some love to the head coach because this dude's stripped of all of his powers anyway. That's what I really hope is happening here. But what if Nick is going, yo, dude, I'm a part of this too? It shouldn't be that way. What we need to see is have Kellen Moore run what is acceptable in his eyes. Forget what they did last year. Forget Nick Sirianni. What does Kellen Moore do? Take all of your words, take all of your terms, and just run what you do. Because now I think you're overcomplicating it. You're trying to do too much. Now there's all these outside elements. We needed to get back to stability. We needed to find someone comfortable enough who understands the NFL offense and how to run an offense on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, on a play-by-play basis. And that should be Kellen Moore, not getting cute and fancy and trying to pluck things that aren't his. Do what's yours. Let's just get this out of the way front and center, nice and early. Kellen Moore has the opportunity here to run the show. Run your terms, your beliefs, your concepts. Don't try and blend and this and that, because now everyone's out of whack. Everyone's out of sync. Even if Vic Fangio demands more practices. And let's transfer over to Vic Fangio right now, because I look at that as a positive and a negative. No matter how we feel about today's athlete and the modern athletes and how back in the day they used to run suicides until you threw up and they said you're not allowed to get water and you need to be dehydrated because that's the only way you showed that you worked your ass off today. That's the style of coaching that I grew up on when I was skating for the first time at 4 years old. Coach Gay throwing that wooden stick over our iTech helmets, breaking it in half because we weren't skating hard enough. And that's what it was all about. These athletes don't do that these days. So there is a part of me that wonders, Vic Fangio apparently was discussing it with Nick Sirianni, that I want more time in the preseason. I want more mandatory camps. I want more practices. Almost knocked all my notes over. But I want more practices so we can install this defense and install what we want to run. Because when things get rough, I'm not going to be able to have a magic potion. There's something I do called go back to the details. So they really want to focus on the details and the technique and the fundamentals and really get back to a base level of structured play. That's what they desperately need after last year. Yet they kept the most important guy in all of that, which was Nick Sirianni. But I digress. Forgot how much I didn't like Nick Sirianni last season. It's now just starting to come out of me as we talk through this. But will you lose players because of that? Because nowadays, once again, whether you like it or not is a totally different combo. What I'm talking about right now is the reality of it. And the reality is these athletes don't take coaching hard anymore. They don't like two-a-days. They don't put the pads on anymore. They don't tackle to the ground. So if you have Mr. Old School banging his fist on the table and kicking the doors in, will they accept that? Not should they. will they accept that? And there was some rumblings out of Miami that maybe he rubbed some guys the wrong way. And I think it's easy to say, well, then you got the wrong guys in the room. But you got to remember that we don't relate to some of these guys. Now, there are some that are in our age range. I'm 28 years old. So there's 30, 31-year-olds, 32-year-olds, 27-year-olds. So there's people in range that understand that might be okay with it. But I don't know about some of these super young ones that just recently got out of Georgia. Although you think Kirby Smart runs a very intense type of system and just the way you go about your business when you're playing Georgia Bulldogs football. Same with Alabama if you played under Nick Saban. So they do bring that same level of fire and intensity as a lot of these NFL programs. So, just something to think about. But I don't love the idea of Vic being the one so openly expressing, I want to be out there more when Nick doesn't, when I don't know where Kellen Moore stands. But it goes back to, will the players respect Nick Sirianni if now they're aware? Because I remember when the news came out that the Eagles are probably going to add more and they're going to bring this different experience and they're going to view some of the camps earlier a lot different than they did in years past. And I acknowledge that, going, all right, Nick, good. That shows me that you are not accepting last year's crap. It was garbage. So what can I do to try and change things up? And to be fair, 2 years ago, they ran a very similar early season type of schedule. They weren't tackling to the ground. It was super light, and they went to the Super Bowl and had a double-digit lead before losing to Pat Mahomes. So it did work a season before it didn't work. It doesn't mean the recipe is absolutely trash, but I just like the idea of we were so not prepared for adversity. We were so not linked together that we need to make sure we are focused nice and early. And I think it's a wake-up call of we are going to look at this differently. We are going to put that fire under you in the early stages and make sure you're showing up early because we can't let last year happen again. So I didn't hate it. But now that I learned that it wasn't Nick Sirianni who was the one to give the nod about it, and it came from somewhere else, now I look at Nick Sirianni differently. And there's no doubt if I am from the outside looking in, the players feel a certain type of way about it. It's just reality. All right, some positives on Vic Fangio. When asked about his scheme, I do like him talking about it just takes good players, man. And I think sometimes when you talk to a lot of these coaches, for example, if you were talking to Bill Belichick about what he does and what he could do with the team, and if he was looking at a roster, what he thinks he could do with it. I just feel a lot of guys in football are very true to what they believe in, to the point where it's so stubborn, it's scary. But my scheme works. Look at the Chip Kelly disaster, and ironically enough, this is on the same exact day you got the podcast from Deshaun Jackson and Shady, and I haven't listened to the full thing yet. I did see a lot of clips flying around social media, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, I love those guys to death. I mean, all-time favorite Eagles for me, both of them. There's nothing more electric than Shady holding the football, thinking that dude's going to fumble every possession. Dude, put both hands on the ball, man. But yet he's in the air. He's hurdling over people. He's got one hand on it, and it's up by his ear. Could easily be punched out, but he dances behind the line of scrimmage. Nothing like it, man. Nothing like it. Nothing like Chip Kelly, too, that absolute ass. But I digress. When you think about the, just the belief in this is how it works for me. There's a lot of guys that feel that way around the league. And Vic Fangio does have a system, right? There's a reason why this league has a million defensive coordinators that love Vic Fangio's ideas. And they run what he does and at least attempts to really nitpick a lot of his approach and do what's best for them to mix that in with their own beliefs. Everything's about Vic Fangio defensively in this league. So obviously there is a scheme that he's super heavy on, but a lot of guys die with the sword of, it's what I do that's so good. He's saying, look, it's about having the ballers out there. You give me the ballers and I'll be okay. Just go get me the good talent. And that speaks high volume. It speaks high character. That's someone who's so confident. I've been in this league since a lot of you have been born, all right? Probably prior to a lot of you being born. And that is him speaking potentially to the media, right? That's how long he's been in the NFL. And he actually touched on that as well. And is this going to be my last stop? And looking at maybe his future, this could potentially be it kind of thing. But that's how confident. It's like, go get me good players. All right, I'll be all right with my scheme. Trust me. I'll figure this thing out. Just go get me the players. And that's what it's all about. I don't want someone in here thinking that he's just got the answer schematically and you could plug anybody in and just be okay. No, get me guys who know what the hell they're doing. And I like that. And I do believe that the Eagles do have that with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. They will become something phenomenal, and it's just the start for them. Slay, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. There's a lot there. Brandon Graham, even though he's on his last leg, I still think he's got a lot to give on his last leg. I do. Okay, with that, let's take a listen to Kenny Gainwell, and I say that respectfully, by the way, for his role, not double-digit sack Brandon Graham giving us 14 sacks or something nuts like that, okay? I just mean for his role. I think we'll recognize him for his role, I hope. I hope I'm not just wearing Kelly Green glasses, because not too long ago, the most scary part of this team for me was their lack of pass rush. So I think I just lied, and that was me catching myself in real time. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I'd be lying if I said I feel that. I think I was just trying to transition to the next phase. I was transitioning and I made an uh-oh. I apologize. Let's go to Kenny Gainwell on the collapse last season.
What do you think it was that caused that sudden change?
I think it was a connection piece, I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected,
Well, to be fair, Travis Kelce tried to punch the head coach in the Super Bowl. But continue.
Upstairs and downstairs, front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you have that connection piece, bro, everything just clicked. When, you got guys that's not talking to each other, then, you never know what's going on, So, like, if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field to, get this thing going, then, we'll be good. Because if we play real hard at the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season, because at the end of the season what really matter.
That's what really matters.
That would really matter, because when we get to the playoffs, if we're not playing good, and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games, what you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
All right, so let's talk about this, right? He talked about it from a locker room standpoint and from the upstairs standpoint when referencing Pat Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, and whatnot. Reality is they have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever exist. Now that you see what was happening internally between Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots, their dynasty, when you have the best quarterback to ever live, a lot of that goes away, all right? A lot of that just gets shelled because you're winning a bunch of championships and none of that is revealed. So that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is so perfect and beautiful behind the scenes, and that's probably true here as well. But my biggest issue is, what does Nick Sirianni say 24/7? We got to have our core beliefs. We got to have our core values. This is how we build our culture. His biggest one is connection. And Kenny Gainwell saying we have a connection problem. Well, what the hell, Nick? What do you do? If you don't do anything offensively, if you don't call a good game, if you're a Mr. CEO, but you're not even CEOing properly, and then on the sidelines in the games, he's not using timeouts well, he's not feeling the game well, guys don't know when to be on the field, when to be off the field, he's running backup tight ends off the field so they don't get a penalty. It's the fourth quarter of a very important game late into the season. He was an issue, and now his biggest core value isn't even hitting home to the locker room. And we've heard others speak out. It's not just Kenny Gainwell. It was also, who was it, man? It was, oh, man, it's escaping me. Oh, man. Who spoke? It was at Super Bowl row. Oh, man, this is going to kill me. Oh, whatever. I'm too frustrated to Google it right now. But if that's not working, then what does Nick Sirianni do? It's a fair question to ask. This is also coming from the guy that DM'd a fan mid-game or a hater mid-game talking smack in the DMs. So think before you speak, because this isn't putting you in any great spot here. And maybe he felt left out. Like, let's look at everything that could possibly happen here. He said the team's not connecting. They don't speak much. Maybe they don't like him, and he's just an outlier in the room. And I don't know, maybe he's mad that a lot of these fans are pissed off anytime he gets the football. It's a 2-minute drill. They're force-feeding him into the offense. Instead of us cheering, yes, Kenny Gainwell, we're going, boo, boo, put in DeAndre Swift. And then him and the locker room, they just didn't really see eye to eye. And then he kind of lived on his own on an island in the room, but other guys stayed connected. Maybe that's not as high on your list, and it's not necessarily high on my list either. I'm just looking at every single potential option that this could be. This could also stem back to, and I'm a huge Jalen Hurts supporter. I'm a big fan of Jalen, and I'm expecting a big season for him. Whether it's fair or not, when they win and he shows the stoic face, people love it. When they lose, people talk about it negatively. It's like anything. When you win and you have fire, it means you're a big competitor. When you lose and you have fire, maybe you're being a bad leader. And I'm applying that to any star out there in any sport. It's the way that things are perceived, whether it's fair or unfair. He is the same guy every time, so you have to respect it and recognize that that is part of who Jalen Hurts is. But when things go wrong and there's a lack of communication, when the guy who is in charge here, which is Jalen Hurts, if he's very internal, if he's very, quiet guy, he's just about sort of himself, he lives a quieter life, just does his thing, is there a correlation with why things got divided as much as it got divided? Because the reason why he's so not relatable, because I don't think many people have the same work ethic as him, but when it's contagious, he has a very contagious work ethic that you try to maximize yourself knowing he's giving everything he has. That's the type of leader it seems Jalen Hurts is more than anything else. So is the vocal side there? It doesn't mean I hate Jalen, doesn't mean I don't want Jalen. I want Jalen, I'm happy to have Jalen, but I'm just being honest on the assessment of why things crack and why you lose a connection, why you disconnect at a time of struggles. And is there something to the quarterback? Is there something to the head coach? Was there something to the coordinators? Was there something with the way A.J. Brown handled things at the end of the year and the way he put pressure on his entire team by not answering questions to the media? And then when he finally did, it was a paparazzi show and the whole thing. So I'm just wondering what's going on here. But Kenny Gainwell, you probably screwed yourself. Maybe he was mad that Saquon got signed here, and they also drafted Will Shipley, and there's a lot of us who are interested to see what Will Shipley could be, running back from Clemson that they drafted this season. So maybe he's angry about that as well, so he decides to take some shots. Doesn't surprise me that there's a disconnect in the room between the guys, but I just don't know how this benefits you when you're sort of an guy right now. You're sort of a fringe type of guy, and you're fighting for your spot here. Why would you do that? Is he just unaware? Was he just truthfully being so honest and not recognizing that there would be some of us discussing what that means? And he just thought like, yo, I'm just telling you how it is. There was a communication issue in there. Maybe he just didn't see it as a big deal, but it's the way that I don't think it was a big deal. But here's what it does. It's not about what he's saying being egregious, but it shows how dysfunctional the head coach is. And that's a bad look for the organization. Because what Nick Sirianni is sold as is a big connection guy. And you're pretty much just laying it out publicly to the people that this coach lost it. And you could think, well, isn't that obvious? Why is it a big deal? Well, because it didn't need to be said. It just didn't need to be said. And the fact that he said it shows the incompetence of Nick Sirianni. And it's a problem. But that's where we're at. All right, everyone. It's been a little bit since we broke down birds. I'd say it was refreshing because it was refreshing to have a new topic, but then I realized how much I truly, truly hated Nick Sirianni last year. And there were plenty of real reasons why. And I'm just so down on the guy. It really just comes down to is Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio good? And if they're good, then Nick looks like a hero. That's just what it is. The coordinators have all the power here. Just sad. All right, everybody, thanks so much. I got pissed off as we went through this, was my final point. See you guys all on the next one.